Good day, BookTube. This is Mike, the postmodernist poetry prognosticator, coming with you with a tag from Strip Cover Lit. Adrian over at Strip Cover Lit tagged me in the just a terrible BookTube tag. So I figured go right into it. He insulted me, so I figured I'd come right back and do a video for him. What is the worst book you've ever read for pleasure? Is his first question. And I've read a lot of poetry books for pleasure, and as you can imagine, some of them are just terrible. But I think I did a video on Instagram poetry, in which I did a lot of reading in Instagram poetry, and there was a lot of really bad stuff. But I'm still a believer, still firmly in the side that this is a venue that can be used to bring poetry to a wider audience. So I'm still hopeful for the venue. But I think if I had to pick one that was really out there, it would be R.H. Sin in his collection. There's 3 books in this collection. I've read all 3 of them. And I do have him on Instagram, and I do follow his stuff. But I'm not a big fan. Be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan. He is, almost all his stuff is for women, and it runs along the lines of, if your man is not 100% perfect and worships you every day, then he's not good enough for you and you should get rid of him. If he doesn't put you up on a pedestal every day and lick between your toes, he's not right for you, get rid of him. Really? How about some boundaries? How about drawing a line somewhere? Healthy relationships are not built that way. So it just kind of grates on me. It's a little bit too much. Healthy boundaries build better relationships in the long run. We can't all worship our spouses or significant others every day, as much as I love mine. Licking between the toes is just gross. I'm not going to go there. Bye. Okay, so moving on. What is the worst book you've ever read for school is question number 2. And here, I got to go way back. Some of us aren't as young as Adrian and Dalton and have to go way back for school years. But I do remember taking a class and having to read The Milagro Beanfield War by John Nichols. It's been a long time, so I do remember it grating on me. I mean, literally grinding my teeth over it. Okay, so I like magical realism as a style, and I like realism as a style, like a Steinbeck kind of realism. But in that particular book, he seemed to jump back and forth between those tones so often that it would grate on my nerves to go. If he just stuck with one of them, the book would have been much better. But he jumped back and forth between those styles, and it got on my nerves. I earned my credits in that class reading that book. That was a horrible experience. But that was a long time ago. I've learned to get over it. Who is the worst writer ever? Well, as you can imagine, as I stated, I've read a lot of poetry and I can come up with a lot of poets, but I figured in this particular time I would name a writer that most people are familiar with and probably big fans of that I just can't read. Stephen King. Just can't read him. I can't stand him, to be perfectly honest with you. So rather than name a poet, I'll name somebody that most people are familiar with. 4, what is the worst book to movie adaptation? And this one's easy for me. It was the 1977 animated The Hobbit. Huge fan of J.R.R. Tolkien. Love the recent movies, both the Hobbit movies and the Lord of the Ring movies. Wish they could have put more into them from the books, but that's just the nature of that kind of transfer. But when in 1977, they did an animated series or animated movie of The Hobbit, and it was just horrible. I mean, they did such a disservice to the book. I thought the book would never recover, but thankfully it did. Question number 5, what is your least favorite type of booktube video to film? Well, I'm new to BookTube. I haven't filmed a whole lot of different types. I've done mostly reviews and a few tags. So I haven't had any experiences with filming anything that I didn't enjoy filming, other than not enjoy seeing my own face on a camera screen. I guess I could say that the one of the types of BookTube type videos that I probably will never do is a book haul. Not because I don't enjoy them. I watch them regularly, love them. But I don't do hauls. I've got 3 kids, a mortgage, and I can't afford to go out and buy a bunch of books. And even, I don't know if you've ever noticed, most people probably don't know this, but when you go to a used bookstore and look for the poetry books, they're not priced that low. You can get 5 or 6 different types of books for every one book of poetry you can get out of a used bookstore. And they're becoming more and more rare. Even in used bookstores, finding a shelf of poetry is a find. And I don't have very many good used bookstores in my neighborhood. So I don't think I'll be doing any hauls, unfortunately. Wish I could, but I don't think that I'll be doing that. But filming something I don't enjoy, I haven't done that yet. What is your least favorite type of BookTube video to watch is question number 6. And I watch quite a variety of BookTube videos, and I don't think I have anything that I don't enjoy watching. And Steve Donahue has a problem with bad videos. I guess I could go with that answer. That would be the easy way out, I guess. I don't like overproduced videos. Now, I have no production value in my videos. It's me, this laptop, and talking. I don't edit. I don't cut anything. I don't change anything. If I don't get it right, I just don't get it right. And I've never done a retake, actually. I've never had to stop and say, oops, I said something very bad and I need to go back. Every video you've seen so far is I've turned it on, I've talked, I've turned it off, and I've posted it. So there's no production value. But I don't have any problem with production value. People adding things too. Love it when they can pop up as the picture of the books. I don't have that technology. I haven't gotten that far in this thing. I would maybe someday be able to develop to that point, but I don't have any problem with it. But I guess bad videos, yes, that's the easy answer. I'll cheat and steal Steve's answer to that. I guess I can do that. Worst book cover ever is question number 7. And I do have a book here. Now, there's a lot of bad book covers out there to poetry books, but most of them are from bad poetry, so I don't really have a problem with that. But the one I think, what I'm going to try to answer this question is one that's done a disservice to the book itself. So a cover so bad that it's done a disservice. And I would say any iteration of this particular cover, The Emperor's Babe by Bernardine Arnavesto. I've seen several the Penguin covers to this book that are just horrible and do a huge disservice to the book itself. This is a great book. It's a wonderful book. This cover is my favorite cover of this book. And when I did the video on this, when I did my review of this, I used this cover because it's by far the best. Is it a perfect cover? No. But it doesn't do a disservice to the book. I think the original covers that came with the book, and it's a British author, the British covers were just horrible, and the first Penguin American cover, just terrible. So I think they did a disservice to the book itself because it's a very, very good book. Would recommend it, still recommend it. Question 8, what is the least fun you've ever had reading a book? So least fun, I've read some bad books, but the least fun I've ever had was going through Ezra Pound's cantos. And the first time I went through it, I just hated all of them. I mean, there was a few redeeming cantos in there, but I mean, you can imagine trying to get through a volume this large with fine print, how tedious that can be when you're not enjoying the poetry. So I went out and I got a guide to the cantos because there's a lot of obscure references in there that I just didn't understand and had very difficult time following the poetry. So I went through cantos by cantos. from the reference book to the cantos, and back and forth, back and forth. Just, I got to the point where I could say, yes, I understood the references. I know what he's talking about. Still don't enjoy him. So it was not an enjoyable process. Even understanding all the references, or as far as I could understand most of the references, still didn't have fun with it. So that's going to be a difficult thing to beat there. I am going to, my next nonfiction book to read is The Pound Era by Kenner. So, yeah, I keep subjecting myself to Pound because he was important to modernism. Inflated gas bag, if you ask me, but because of his effect, not because of who he is, but his effect, he's important to modernism, and I need to know about him to understand more about modernism, so I keep plugging at it. But not what I would call fun. Not a fun read. Last book you DNF'd. That's question number 9. I'm a stubborn reader. I really am. Like the cantos and the images, the Instagram poetry. Sometimes I put down a book for quite some time, but I am stubborn in the fact that if I start a book, I'm going to finish a book. So I've put books aside for months and even years. I think the longest one to hold the record for being on my DNF was James Joyce Ulysses. I've never tried Finnegan's Wake, so I'm not even going to attempt that till I can get through Ulysses. But that's been on my to-do list for a very long. I've started it, I think, 3 or 4 times now. But because I am so stubborn, I will get through that book. Okay, so 10 was tag some terrible booktubers and insult them. I'm terrible at insulting people. I'm not a very good, banter kind of guy. I just don't do that. Now, Adrian did the original tag here, and he insulted me on there. And I had it all set up where I was going to just randomly show copies of my Bill Collins poetry collections, and then insult him. But this morning, when I was just watching some videos, I watched the Strip Cover Lit April TBR video, and Adrian defended the poetry that they keep putting up on Strip Cover Lit. How am I going to insult somebody that just keeps defending doing poetry videos on the channel? I couldn't do it. So I had a fallback position. I was going to insult Dalton because Dalton wanted to replace the poetry readings with some other series. So I was all set to insult him, but then the series he's talking about is doing the one with How to Read Literature Like a Professor by Foster. And I really look forward to that series. When he put out the videos saying he was thinking about it, I jumped on board and said I would love to see that series. I would hate for it to replace the poetry on Strip Cover Lit, but I would really love to see that series, Dalton. So how am I going to insult Dalton? And if I can find even one redeeming quality between the two of them, how can I hope to insult anybody else? So I won't. But if you have seen these questions or watched the original tag, which I will link down below, I invite you, without insulting you, to embrace your negativity, as this tag hopes for us to do, and do this tag. See what you think. Bye, BookTube.